The deal failed. In business, when reality hits a wall, our immediate instinct is to construct an alternative past. We start imagining what we should have done, what we could have done, and what we would have done. For non-native speakers, these alternative timelines represent a significant challenge, demanding a constant balance between rigid syntactic formulas and highly subjective, shifting intents. To master this, you have to separate English modality into two pragmatic tracks. The first is epistemic, evaluating the probability of a past event based on current evidence. The second is deontic, evaluating an obligation or an unexercised ability in a counterfactual scenario. The intersection of these two tracks happens inside a specific grammatical structure, the modal perfect tense. By dismantling this structure, you will learn how to express unfulfilled timelines and navigate the specific degrees of certainty and obligation required for professional diplomacy. Commanding these verbs provides the pragmatic tools to navigate hierarchy, encode politeness, and carefully assign or avoid blame in high-stakes environments. This diagram shows the absolute structural formula for shifting a modal into the past. To build a retrospective deduction or a counterfactual, you start with the modal verb, anchor it with the auxiliary have, and close with a past participle, or V3. The most common professional error begins with a phonetic illusion. Native speakers routinely compress the auxiliary into a spoken reduction, could've. When transcribed by ear, that reduction frequently morphs into the preposition of. Modals require an auxiliary verb to form a perfect tense. By inserting a preposition in place of the auxiliary, the syntactic architecture completely collapses. In written communication, this error has immediate professional consequences. Industry research indicates that hiring managers often spend less than 6 seconds reviewing a resume, and specific grammatical errors like could've are frequently used as a primary filter to eliminate candidates. To verify your usage, apply the contraction test. If you can contract the phrase into could've, the word you need is have. Of creates no valid contraction. Achieving advanced fluency requires ignoring the auditory traps of spoken English and strictly adhering to the architectural logic of the auxiliary verb. This is the nuance matrix. We will use it to plot the core modals based on two variables. The x-axis tracks the degree of certainty or obligation, while the y-axis tracks the intent, splitting between epistemic deductions and deontic or counterfactual statements. We start with should have plus the past participle. This lands firmly in the high obligation zone on the deontic track. Structurally, it indicates an unfulfilled obligation. Cardinatically, it encodes personal regret or directs explicit criticism at the actions of others. Compare that to could have, which sits lower on the obligation axis and registers moderate certainty. This modal evaluates parameters of possibility, like an unexercised ability in the past or a speculative alternative, without delivering the sting of direct blame. Finally, we place would have in the highest certainty zone of the counterfactual track. This functions primarily as the result clause of a third conditional. It indicates a guaranteed outcome to a hypothetical scenario, or expresses a past willingness to act. Selecting the correct modal is a precise calculation of emotional weight and structural intent. To see how these function in high-stakes communication, we can look at a business strategy meeting where a speaker states, "We could have invested in tech stocks." By selecting could have, the speaker highlights an unused ability and an alternative approach. This introduces the missed opportunity while carefully avoiding direct blame for the current financial situation. Next, look at medical communication. I would have to suspect a circulation problem. Here, would have operates as a pragmatic hedge. Instead of delivering a blunt statement, the modal softens the diagnosis to respect the patient's negative face needs and maintain a more collaborative bedside manner. Scenario 3 shows these structures operating in contrast. We could have arrived on time if we had left by 3, but we should have checked the traffic. The first clause uses could have to state an objective, unexercised ability. The second clause pivots to should have, injecting immediate retrospective criticism about an unfulfilled obligation. In Scenario 4, we observe workplace hierarchy encoded in email requests. Compare "you should consider alternative solutions" against "we could consider alternative solutions." The word should provides direct subordinate guidance. Could especially when paired with we, defers authority to show respect for the experience of peers or superiors. Finally, scenario 5 shifts the track entirely. A doctor notes, "She should have been better by now." This is an epistemic expectation. Unlike its usual role denoting unfulfilled obligation, should have here expresses a confident deduction about a past event. In professional contexts, these grammatical choices allow a speaker to manage hierarchy, build patient trust, and define the boundaries of collaborative success. Even with the correct intent, writers often stumble into a second major pitfall: past participle agreement failure. This occurs when the auxiliary have is combined with a simple past verb. Writing could have went instead of the required V3, could have gone, signals an immediate breakdown in basic grammatical accuracy. The third pitfall is semantic ambiguity. This happens when a speaker executes the syntax correctly, but misjudges the emotional tone their chosen modal carries in written text. Take the phrase, "it could have been done," a neutral observation of unexercised possibility. Swapping a single word changes it to "it should have been done," transforming a collaborative assessment into an accusation of a missed obligation. Structural perfection is only effective if the semantic intent matches the desired outcome. Advanced writers must pre-calculate the emotional payload of their verbs. Let's test this. Parse the pragmatic tone and choose the correct modal perfect based on the required intent. First, "I blank told you, but I didn't have your number." The intent is hypothetical willingness. The answer is would have. Next, "You blank called before visiting." The intent requires mild criticism or a polite expectation. Both could have and should have fit this pragmatic slot. 3. "The file's blank been deleted accidentally." We need an epistemic deduction of past possibility. Here, could have or might have delivers the right degree of uncertainty. 4. "If she had taken the job, she blank been promoted." This is a third conditional result clause, requiring the certainty of would have. Finally, "I feel nauseous. I blank eaten that much." The intent is personal regret. The correct choice is the negative shouldn't have. If you successfully parse these intents, you are actively demonstrating a mastery of English pragmatics. This table shows the comprehensive matrix for professional modality. Should have governs regret, unfulfilled expectation, and explicit criticism. Could have and might have operate with lower obligation, expressing unexercised abilities and epistemic possibilities. And would have anchors hypothetical pasts with absolute counterfactual certainty. Moving beyond rote grammar rules allows professionals to wield English with nuance, encode politeness, and communicate with strategic precision. The space between what actually happened and what could have happened is massive. How you navigate that space is controlled by your mastery of the modal perfect.